Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Wealth Around Us. I was just testing my new setup here with my new phone. We've got a lot of new equipment and stuff at The Wealth Around Us, and I used to do the Midnight Run series that I picked up when, damn, there was a big ol' owl. New Jersey Prepper originally did them. And I picked him up and I did him a couple times, and he had kind of dropped off of YouTube. I don't know where he went, but here it is. So I'll go ahead and we're doing this for some test footage, so bear with me if it's bad. But it looks pretty good. I tell you, the Samsung S8 Plus phone, the camera on it is so unreal. Let me just go to story time for you a little bit. I actually have been working on a set of a movie that I originally was a screenwriter with my own private production studio, not for movies, but for scripts and storyboarding and stuff like that. And I got approached by these guys with an independent film, and you see Atlanta is starting to turn into the new Hollywood, where all the last biggest movies, they weren't done in Hollywood. They were done right here in Atlanta, and Infinity War, Black Panther, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man. Believe it or not, Spider-Man Homecoming was completely set in New York. There wasn't one scene of it set in New York. What you're looking at is downtown Atlanta. And it looks exactly like New York. You really can't tell the difference. And I can't say the title of it or what firm I work for right now, but I am currently the second associate director in charge of photography. So it's been a huge journey for me. It's taken a lot of my time. Luckily, I have some time off lately because the weather hasn't been cooperating with us enough to really shoot like we want. But I've learned a lot about the industry, and they tell you, don't meet your heroes. Like, I used to be a movie buff, and now that I'm making one, it's like, oh god. And I'm starting to see, like, oh yeah, he used a long shot on a dolly right there. But believe it or not, I've actually been doing very good. I've got really high praise from my director and the guy over me, the first associate director, and the associate producers really like my work. And I wish I could show you a couple stills, because some of my first shots looked almost identical to the hand-driven, drawn concept art, which the director really liked. But anyway, yeah, we were doing that, and we took a vacation to Pensacola. It's a kind of paid working vacation, but they loaded us up with liquor, and they had us at a really nice house. So we had a lot of fun doing that, and then about a week ago, I caught my thumb I was showing John J. Rambo too on Facebook, but caught my thumb in a kitchen mandolin, and it cut it nearly the hell off, and I had to get 9 and 10 stitches through the thumbnail, mind you, to put it back on. And don't worry, luckily it's doing a whole hell of a lot better than it was when it happened. But it was probably one of the most grievous injuries I've ever had to my hand, and it sucks, because the end of my thumb, from about the cuticle of the thumbnail down, was cut off. So I can't feel any of it right now, or I can, because it wasn't totally cut off. So I've got like a flap, where the pad of my thumb is, but the entire top of that thumbnail all the way across, it was just slashed to the bone, and it just was nasty, and it still is nasty. I had the doctor that went to the primary care place, that I normally go to get the stitches out, and they had to be special stitches that were like nylon, and they wouldn't come out, and they had to hold tension, and they had to hold that thumbnail together. But when she was taking it out, one was like almost an inch long, and it didn't look like there was enough thumb there for like the stitch to come out, and she got a little queasy, and I about passed out. It was pretty rough. I've never passed out or fainted or been knocked out by anybody, but got close a couple times, and that was one of them. It was pretty gnarly, even for a doctor, she said. So, and that was another funny thing at the emergency room. When they finally got my thumb, managed to get it numbed, the shots to numb it hurt worse than the damn injury itself. So they had to practically hold my ass down, and they held me down pretty good. I suggested they got a papoose out like for a child and like tie me down, but they're like, no, you'll be all right. If you pass out, you're laying down anyway, you'll be okay. And I was like, oh, I hope I pass out. But they ended up doing it, yeah, and it sounded like guitar string when they were having to bring it through the thumbnail, because it was like, and yeah, it was pretty nightmarish for stitches, I gotta say that. And it's still kind of inhibiting me. I don't really can't really use my right hand very well because of that opposable thumb. I have become a master, though, of using my middle finger and index finger as pincers. Like I could like open a can with them right now. I've been using them so much like that, and it's funny what skills you learn when you have injuries make you reprogram your motor skills. It's always fascinating to see that kind of stuff, especially like after I never used to have big shoulders, like muscular shoulders or upper arms, until I broke both my legs and was walking around on my arms. It's like I was telling people, the injury workout is great, it's fabulous. But where we're headed right now is through some, I guess it's going to start raining. I wouldn't doubt it. It's been raining non-stop here and keeping us off the streets filming, and happens just at the times of the day that got the light you need. And yeah, it's been a real sucker. So we are on hiatus. But again, this is a Toyota FJ Cruiser, if anybody doesn't already know that. And it's not a dash cam setup. This is actually a Samsung S8 Plus phone, and it looks like it's taking some really good footage. I mean, you can see every little bump and everything, but it's in like super HDR, which someone get back to me in the comments below too. What does HDR, is that like a step above HD? Is that like more enriched or like more megapixels than HD? Because I don't know the story on that, and I'm too lazy to read up on it. But I do know it takes a hell of a picture. I've actually been getting a lot of compliments on my photography with it, and one of the reasons I have this phone is because that was one of my little bonuses for signing on with this film crew in a capacity that I was completely not prepared for. And I let them know, look, if I screw up, I have no formal training in this kind of stuff. So that's what they gave me the Samsung S8 phone, and I figured out that one of the big problems with filming any movie is money. That's rule one, money. You need lots of money, even if you're not making any money or don't plan to make any money. Films cost money no matter which way you cut it. If you're doing a test shoot, these cameras are kind of unforgiving, and you got this tape that a lot of them use, and that stuff is not cheap. It is like, it can cost $10,000 to shoot 2 minutes of test footage you're not even going to use. That's how bad it is. So I figured out that you can buy some little Huawei, piece of crap fake smartwatch that can see your phone's camera, and you can link it up to this Android S8, and actually we put it on the camera truck on the Lenny arm, and there's a special adapter we had to use to hold the camera, or the phone camera as it were, and now we're shooting test footage for free in HD, and we like it so much, and it looks so good to the eye when you put it through your programs and editing, that we're talking about doing another movie completely on a Samsung S9 Plus phone, which is really interesting. And a couple of guys were talking about Hardcore Harry and this one on Netflix right now called Unsane. But those movies were filmed on an iPhone 7, and they look as professional as anything you would see on HBO or in Hollywood. Some of the more dramatic stuff, I wouldn't say you could reproduce that easily with a phone. Like, for example, like Ready Player One, you were filming that with no iPhone 7 just because of the amount of CG involved. You always, as a director, want everything to come out looking uniformly like one team made it, even if they didn't. And we normally would have a guy who his whole job is to make all the art look the same. but unfortunately we're an indie flight, so we're actually dumpster diving for props and stuff like that. So yeah, but real interesting thing I've done in recent memory is I built a camera truck, which the story I was in, and I was telling Dan, I was like, dude, maybe you guys got me in the wrong job, but they wanted me to build a camera truck because camera trucks are very finicky, very rare beasts to find. A lot of times any company that has camera trucks with like a fully capable boom arm and gimbal and all that on it, they want about $2,600 a day to film these, to use these camera trucks. And they usually have some grumbly asshole crotchety operator who, you know, depending on his mood, may not cooperate with you. And like, we had this one guy that wanted to bitch about where he was parking the truck, so we were like, tell you what, just forget about getting paid and take it on home. That, you know, if you don't want to do it, we'll find somebody who does. And we had so many instances like that where like a camera truck operator would not do what we were paying him to do. And so my boss said, I want you to take a week, you've got a budget of $50,000, I want to see if you can build a camera truck that we can use. So, all right. So I got on Craigslist, I found a like a 90-something or like early 2000-something Dodge Ram 3500 with a Allison transmission and a Cummins 5.9 in it, which you cannot go wrong with those motors. They just go and go, and it's one wire that controls them. So I wanted to go with that just for reliability's sake, and it turns out it gets really good gas mileage too. It was a flatbed with a hydraulic PTO system in it. It had like a pump and a reservoir, and it was originally used for some logging shit or something. I can't even recall, but the truck was in good enough shape, so I took that and I took it to Peterson and Sons, which is a fabrication, like junkyard welding place. And they found me the arm from a obscure piece of power equipment I've never even seen before, called a articulated boom loader. And that's what they used as the Lenny, and all they had to do was modify the end of the arm to accept the gimbal that the camera works from, and then put like wheels and a slider and the wiring harness that controls it up the arm. And it's a retractable thing, so it had to be, you know, they had to, you know, measure it all out and have special reels that let it out when it goes out and reel it back in when it comes in. But the camera truck turned out to be a huge success, an absolutely huge success. And even though it's a little bit heavier and more lunky than a normal camera truck, you got to understand that camera trucks that the film industry and TV industry uses, there's like two people that manufacture them. Just like, hey, I need a camera truck, can I buy it? They are a firm out of California. They build them out of Ford Raptors. And as they complain about, a lot of cinematographers and photographers that have used the things claim that they have a tendency, because they have a really soft transmission or suspension, a 6-speed some transmission, and like a 400 some horsepower motor, that they're just too tweaky. They jump and dive, and when you hit on the brakes, their nose goes down, and when you get on the gas, their ass squats. And on the end of, you know, a 15-foot Lenny or a camera jib arm, that's going to translate into like 3 feet of movement, and you can see it on film, and it makes it makes it jerky, and they didn't like that. My truck does not do that. It's as sure-footed as a mountain lion. It's a 4x4. It's a dually, and like when you go over bumps and stuff like that, it actually takes the bumps real well instead of jump like the Ford Raptor would. Now that particular Ford Raptor that you can get from that company that converts them, that truck is $749,000. They take a Ford Raptor, they slap an electric arm and some electronics in it, and the price instantly jumps from whatever they're asking for a Raptor, like 74, 78, to $740,000, and they get it. And it's like I said to Dan, I was like, I'm in the wrong business, huh? But the second one, and this was an interesting situation here in Georgia right now with the film industry expanding here and pretty much taking over Hollywood and eating their lunch, which couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of assholes, if you want to ask my opinion about it. But out there, there's these guys that really effing hate that Atlanta is eating their lunch. So naturally, what do? They send a bunch of lobbyists here to try to get regulations put on us. Well, one of them they did do was that now, according to GDOT, and this is GDOT's bullshit, this is not lawmakers, this is just GDOT's bullshit and their administration. But GDOT wants every camera truck registered as a commercial vehicle, and that means if you want to drive it on the streets around here, you have to have commercial driver's license. So to drive a pickup truck with a articulated arm on it, they want you to have a CDL and pay CDL insurance on it, which is bullshit. And not only that, like you can't ride on it. Like there's all these like regulate. They want to regulate it like it's a semi truck. If it's a camera truck, and it makes money. So, make a long story short, Dan comes back at me on some downtime and says, "I've got another project for you, my son." He's an Englishman. And I says, "What is it?" And he says, "I want you to make another camera truck, but this time I want you to think outside the box. I want this thing, if possible, to skirt all the laws, to skirt the regulations. And not only that, I want it to be popping. I want people to walk up to it and take pictures and go, 'That is so friggin' cool. What is this?'" So, first thing I do, went right back on Craigslist. I bought the old FJ here on Craigslist, man. It's been a damn good truck, best car I've ever owned. And although you got to be very selective on Craigslist with what you're buying and who you're buying from, I did happen to find, among all things, a 1956 Chevrolet 3100 4x4 heavy-duty pickup truck. So I called the guy up, and it was a welder who did it. And I says, "All right, now this is just some good old Georgia boys. Like hell, I build boats and I weld hulls for boats and I weld." You know, he's one of these guys. You know, he just does it himself. And he had built the thing from its original owner. And over the years, he'd replaced the transmission in it to a moderner one. And like, I found it hilarious that he had done all this work and he wanted 20 grand for it. And I look in the engine bay and it had this piece of crap AutoZone rebuilt 352 barrel in it that couldn't. I was driving it all the way home back to Atlanta, like tacking it out, like just like foot to the floor, tacking it out, seeing if I could blow a valve or something, have an excuse to replace it. And but we came back, and what we decided to do with it was go with this firm. So that's 20 grand in the hole. And nothing was wrong with the engine, but I just wanted a more reliable, better engine in it because one, it was slow, and two, for the amount of power it had, it wasn't getting gas mileage worth shit. So I told the boss, I said, "Look, you know, we got this 56 Chevy, and one of the reasons that I bought it is because you can buy everything you need on that car, from the air conditioner to the windows to the fenders to the tailgate locks, on a website my dad uses for his 56 Chevy Coupe." Now, they have every 56 and 55 and 57 Chevy car, Pontiac and GMC too, I believe. And so that's where we sourced a lot of the parts from, the air conditioner that it was missing, you know, things of that nature. We decided to go with, instead of a Lenny arm that is a fixture on the truck, see, that's part of the rule, that's part of the GDOT rules. If it has a fixture, an arm, or a boom, or anything like that, it's a commercial vehicle if you're making money with it. So what my friend Gary's bright idea was, and he works for Pinewood Studios in Atlanta, but Gary's bright idea was to use a jib. Now, a jib is very much like a Lenny arm, except that it's thinner and lighter weight. It usually has a much lighter payload, although it can still handle a camera. It does the same things as Lenny, but it is supported by a system of cables and cable work and pulleys and stuff. And you use free weights on it, like dumbbell weights, that like weightlifting weights to counterbalance it, and you throw your camera on there. And it's very neat because it has, not only can it come off of the truck, but it's got its own wheels on it, 2 different kinds, mind you. And so you can wheel it around, and it's like a lightweight camera jig. You know, it's a camera boom, it's a dolly. Well, we had this bright idea, and I said, now wouldn't that be just crazy eye-popping if this old restored jacked up Chevy pickup 4x4 And it's a beautiful car. That the restoration people did such a good job on it. But yeah, we made the truck look like it was an old-timey four-wheel drive tow truck, because when the camera jib is all like stowed and everything, it looks like those old booms on the back of an old tow truck. So we actually made a mock-up pair of flaps and then hang from chains so that it looks like it's hanging off the gimbal. And I'm telling you, from 10 feet, you cannot tell this thing is not an old, restored 56 Chevy truck that was turned into a wrecker. And as a matter of fact, I'm not going to name names, but a guy who was in Infinity War, who is filming, they're filming like 6 blocks away from where we're filming in Atlanta. I caught him outside of a Taco Bell we were eating at, looking at it, taking pictures of it. And so I come out of this place with my swagger swinging, right? I'm like, hey man. And he says, this is a cool truck. Who owns this? And I said, this is actually a camera truck. And he looked at me and he did a double take, and he had to actually walk up to it and walk around the back of it and look at the gimbal to realize that he'd been duped. I duped your ass. And not only that, it skirts every GDOT law. It is not a camera truck. It is a pickup truck that carries a camera jib. It is, and it's an antique hobby vehicle. So that's for the insurance. It's a 4x4. So it can get to these little places. It can get up underneath trees and go through doorways and things like that. And if it can't, it can get as close there as it's going to get, and then 3 guys pull out that jib and set up near it. Another great thing about this camera truck is that it could be in the background of a shot, and you would never know what you were looking at. And I'm very proud of that. And of course, everyone, including the owners of Pinewood Studio, came out to see it, and they were like, mate, this is the future. And I was like, I love doing it, man. Just let me know. And I joked again, I was like, maybe I'm in the wrong business, huh? Because one of the things we're talking about doing is selling the first camera truck we built to add to our budget. And we spent 56 grand total on it. We're going to sell it for no less than $350. And he said at that price, it's going to go up on eBay. And he says it will be gone within the hour. Promise you. So I was like, God, what can we get for the 56, man? Because now, funny thing about the 56. This was a little adventures in building cars. I have an expense card that's for the, if I got to buy something or, rent a camera truck or something, I pay with the expense card. I got a notice on my phone that someone had spent $12,000 on it, and I went, what the hell is this? So I opened up the receipt, and what did this nut director of mine buy? But I see his ticket, Summit Racing, and I was like, Summit Racing, what's going on here? So I looked at it. He went off the deep end. He loved the truck so much, and he was so geeking about it that I told him I don't like the motor in it. And so he bought a Summit Racing fully built LS7 427 cubic inch racing motor. And I mean to tell you, after probably a week of driving this thing regularly between Duluth and Atlanta, LS motors, dude. LS motors. When this motor in this thing goes, I'm gonna let it until it cracks the crankcase or something, and I'm gonna have it LS swap, because, dude, LS, it's just better. It doesn't have VTEC on it. It doesn't have 4 valves and cylinders, single overhead cam. It doesn't need nothing. I mean to tell you, it's got power, starting power, I mean, all the way, everywhere, through every gear. There was a dude in a Lamborghini Huracan who thought he was going to be cute and rev his motor at me. And I mean to tell you, I mean, we were doing like 60, and I floored it. That sumbitch broke down 3 gears, roared like a demon in his face, and he was over there with his paddle shifters going, and like hitting the limiter between each gear, trying to keep up with me, and I spanked his $100-something friggin' $1,000 Lamborghini in my 56 Ash Chevrolet truck. And that was a real ego booster too, because another funny thing about it was that after they got that motor, they were real impressed with the motor. They said it was broke in properly and that it was looking good, and she sounded strong, and no oil in the, no metal in the oil or anything like that, and it was looking really good. This is the old town of Duluth, by the way, and I'm about to show you these new apartments they're building across the street here, which I was not a fan of, because last thing this place needs is to be more congested. But they are kind of chic. And you can see that's that glowing, the district right there. But that is a full-scale apartment community above a shopping center. This is the new thing, and I hate it. But anyways, so they called me up the next day. They were like, you're going to have to change out all your front-back diffs, your transmission, and your half shafts, and then your hubs. And I said, Jesus, why is that? And he said, this is a fully forged racing engine, and the dude made me aware of a term I was not aware of at all, but it sounded real bad. So I decided to listen to him and just pay the extra $3,000 and have it done. But there is a term in cars, and it's very rare, but it's called crankshaft whip. And what crankshaft whip is like when you have a piece of metal that is that long and weighs that much, moving with that much horsepower behind it. When you go to get on it, the effing crankshaft can wind up and twist, like, however many, microns or something that it happens. And that will translate out into all the stuff in the driveline that is not forged steel. And somewhere you're going to like shatter a bearing or twist a half shaft off in the casing, and or cuff a diff, and that's your whole truck project down the toilet. So had to have forged half shafts put in, had to do new wheel bearings, front and back, mind you. There's two sets there's a lot of stuff going on up underneath that truck. There's a the transfer case is manual, but it's a I forget the engine code. There, it's the Tahoe out of the the transmission out of the Tahoe. But it's it's a 6-speed. I think it's like 5-speed with overdrive. Manual transfer case. We were still able to use the column shifter. They got a new column for it. And just everything about this truck, like the old air conditioner, and just blows ice cubes. It doesn't have a radio in it, which he said, it's a work truck. I don't want you guys on the radio all the time in it. But, I've got my phone for cruising on the highway. But the thing is remarkably, you look at these old 57s, and you think, like, for some reason, at least I do, that, like, you remember them as a big car. But this 57 Chevy, or the 56 Chevy truck, it's about, I want to say it's a little bit smaller than a Jeep Unlimited. It is not a big car at all. I can reach over comfortably and open the passenger door. And driving, ever since like it had the new the shocks and power steering and all that put in, it had like the special, it's solid front rear axle, so it had a special power steering pistons and everything put in that could handle that kind of stress. And it feels a lot like a Jeep Rubicon is what it feels like. But I had it going up and down the same stuff that I've done on the FJ around here, and it did it very well. It's actually a smaller car than the FJ, if you can buy that. And it only weighs like 3,200 pounds. So yeah, it was my first 57 build or 56 build. My dad he's Mr. 57 Chevy Man at AOL.com. I mean, he has 3 57s and a 57 powered speedboat. So he was, I told him I was building a 56 for my job, and he was, I love you so much. But he was real jazzed about it, and we took a ride in it, and we took it over the hump and did a lot of stuff. So that's what I've been doing, and that's where I've been, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, including the thumb. So I mean, that's what I've been up to, and that's what's been going on in my life. But I'm trying to get back here with a lot more great footage and content for you, for the wealth around us. We do have a couple of interesting trips planned. So thanks for watching, everybody. This is going to be the first return episode of the Midnight Run series. Stay safe, and always remember, there's a wealth around you. Have a good one.